Hi, it's me Jacob, and this is my guitar channel on YouTube. And today we're going to talk about the Line 6 Helix, and I'm going to show you how to dial in a Brian May tone circa 1976. For orientation I choose Tie Your Mother Down, which you can find on the Day at the Races album, and I'm going to show you which kind of guitar I'll be using, as Brian May has got a special guitar which is quite hard to emulate. So for this patch I'm going to use that one, Godin Icon Convertible. Yeah, it's kind of a Swiss Army knife as far as electric guitars go. So this guitar features the Seymour Duncan P rails, and you can choose whether you want them to operate in P90 mode, in humbucking mode, or in single coil mode. For the patch I'm going to show you, I've selected P90 mode on both pickups, and I choose the bridge pickup. Alright, so Brian doesn't turn his guitar all the way up. Normally he keeps the volume at around 5, so what I did on this guitar is I've adjusted the volume to be around 5, which is half, so you turn the volume half up. Yeah. So that is basically the configuration of the guitar I'll be playing for the remainder of the video, and I'm going to show you how to dial in the actual patch in HXEdit.
Okay, so here we are in HXEdit, and I'm going to show you block by block how I created the sound and yeah, how much the blocks contribute to the sound. And I'm going to start off with these two blocks here in the middle, amp and IR, impulse response. For the impulse response, I used an own hammer impulse response of a 2x12 VC30 loudspeaker cabinet, which was used in the AC30s by Vox. Yeah, these are the blue bags, and it's a special mic combination offered by own hammer called OH2F07. F stands for fat. It's yeah, a certain kind of combination by microphones, and these impulse response can be purchased at the own hammer homepage. It's not a stock cab in the Helix, but I use these own hammer IRs most of the time. If you don't have them, you can use any decent sounding IR, or you can use a stock cab from the Helix. You just have to experiment a little bit with this block. Okay, the most important block in the heart of the whole preset, of course, is the amplifier. And as we all know, Brian May uses the Vox AC30, which is a classic British amplifier. And, well, Brian May even has a custom-made AC30 tailored by Vox to his needs, in which he only has one dial left. The only thing you can dial on that one is volume, right? But well, it's pretty well documented how Brian made the sound on Tie Your Mother Down and all the classic Queen albums of the 70s. And what he did is usually, well, he drove the amplifiers very hard. He turned everything on 10, and I mirrored that in the Helix by turning the drive on 10 and turning the master on 10, which is pretty much a cranked Vox AC30 amp. And the second thing Brian did on the amplifier was he turned the cut dial all the way down, which means that there is no high cut. The Vox AC30 manufactured during the time when A Day at the Races was recorded only had a cut dial for equalization. It didn't have bass or treble, so I set these ones to 5 in the Line 6 model, and I yeah, put the cut to 0, which means that there is no high cut on the signal. So all the highs are driven straight through the amp, and that's what Brian did, because he really wanted a sharp sound which cut for the mix well. So my guitar volume is still turned halfway up, so let's see how that sounds. If you just strike an E chord, it sounds like that. And if we play the riff for Tie Your Mother Down, it would sound like that. Yeah, and as most of you have guessed, this is not the sound Brian had on the album. It's not because I only turned the volume halfway up. If I turn it all the way up, it sounds like that. which is pretty much an AC30 driven sound. It's pretty nice, pretty British, but it's not the sound Brian has. Brian has got a sharp sound, a distinct sound, a sound which cuts through really well, which has all got these great presences and everything. And I'm going to tell you the secret. The secret ingredient to this sound actually is a little effect box. Just turning down my guitar volume to 5 again. All right, so the little effect box Brian used is a treble booster. And you can see that treble booster here in the signal chain. Brian used the Dallas Rangemaster, which is a treble booster many people used in the 60s and 70s. It was very popular as the tube amps at that time produced a very muddy kind of distorted sound. If you drove them all the way up, if you cranked them all the way up, they tended to lose their highs. So what people did actually was they used treble boosters to firstly boost the signal so that the amp produced more distortion, and to boost their highs especially, so you have more highs in your signal and you have these really sharp distortions which you might know of early 70s or late 60s recordings. The one Brian used at that time was the Dallas Rangemaster, which was very, very popular at the time. Many guitar players used it. If you look up the Wikipedia page of it, you'll see like a who's who of the late 60s, early 70s guitar scene, and Richie Blackmore, Tony Iommi are listed there. I don't know if they really used it, but it's, well, pretty much common knowledge. Brian used one on Tie Your Mother Down and all these recordings from that era. And you got the Dallas Rangemaster as a model in the Line 6 Helix. It's called the Ranged Master, and you find it under the distortion pedals, of course, because that's what it basically does. It's an overdrive. And the original Rangemaster only had one control, its drive. But Line 6 added 2 more, bass and treble, which the original didn't have. And you can see I did not dial them in at 5. Which I normally do if a control is not available on the original amplifier or pedal. But I kind of played with them to make them fit to my guitar. So I really got a nice sound out of it. And if you can still remember, the sound we are having right now is that really cranked up Vox AC30 and the guitar volume up halfway, and it sounds like that. Yeah, it's an A chord, but you get the picture. And so if I turn that one up, if I really hit it, and now it's in the signal chain, and you can see how it sounds now with the treble booster, and you see that's a whole complete different picture. Yeah, and you see you've got really this sharp kind of distortion Brian had on the recording. And that's the secret ingredient, really. You have all these cranked up AC30s, and you have that Rangemaster, the Dallas Rangemaster treble booster in front of it, and now you get that sharp distortion. Okay, what I did to the preset is I really made it, well, I improved it a little bit. At the end of the signal chain, I added a preamp, the Studio Tube Pre model by Line 6, which you can find under Preamp microphone, and it's the only one there. Because if you turn that on, you really get a shiny little bit of compression to your signal, which makes it a little more, well, present, punchy. You can see it if you compare A-B. What you are hearing right now is without the Studio Preamp. Yeah, and if I turn the Studio Preamp on, it's... And, well, the bass gets tighter and everything. And I really like to add that at the end of the chain to make the signal crispier. A second thing I did, of course, was to put reverb in the chain. I just wanted a little bit room on it, so it's not like in-your-face guitar playing. If I record, I usually turn the reverb off and edit later on in my DAW. But just for the preset, I took a little room reverb and made the settings like that. You have a quite long decay. It's quite a big room. Maybe I should turn that down. All right, and a little bit of pre-delay because I really want the guitar to be a little up more front than the wall the reverbs would reflect from. And I set a low and a high cut because normally if you are in a room, you don't get the full response by the reverb there. And I took the mix to 50%, which means that half of it runs through the verb. I always put reverb and delay in parallel paths because you can mix them easier with the original signal going through the main paths. Sounds better to my ears. And that's what you normally do in a big production also. You put a reverb and delay on a parallel path and mix them with the original signal going out to the mains. All right, so now everything's turned on, and that's the guitar sound. Basically, you can just noodle around with it. Yeah, and we can play the riff, which I'm going to do next, and you're going to see